Even when you're tumbling inside mud, you still thank the head of state.
Okay. Well, someday, somehow. Okay.
Someday, somehow, we are going to thank God.
Right. Professor Vekijika is nowhere to be found.
I actually met him yesterday, and he said he's having a serious meeting at this very hour.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay,
Super,
that's right.
super. So I think we should start. So thank you all for being here. Good afternoon, good evening. I know it's nighttime in Cameroon. If you're joining us from across the Atlantic, it is nighttime. If you're on the other side of the big pond, it is still daylight time. So good morning to those in California and in Colorado. Good afternoon to those in the eastern side of the country. So I'm thinking of Florida, Tennessee, Canada too is in the house. We want to acknowledge all of you, the Silverman. Thank you for attending. We appreciate you and the support you give to this platform. So my name is Jude Fokwang. I am the executive publisher at Spears Books. We were founded 10 years ago. This year we are celebrating a milestone. So for all of you who have been part of this journey, we deeply, deeply appreciate your support. And today we have a really exciting launch of a book that is dear to not just my heart, but a topic that I'm particularly concerned about. I've written on it as well. And when Father Tatah wrote on this, I just thought it was really important that we have a conversation about it as well. Now, this book was originally published in Cameroon, I believe in 2022. Father, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
And it was launched. It was a very successful launch in Cameroon, an in-person event coming out of COVID. And Spears acquired the rights to publish the international edition so that people who are out of Cameroon can access the book. But true to our style, we usually hold global conversations on these books. And this turn is Father Tatah's book, Fons of Traditional Bamenda. So we are deeply, deeply grateful for the time you've made to join us today. And we do have a whole range of very interesting reviews. You will be able to get more from the moderator, who will be introduced very shortly by our own Professor Lillian Atanga. So over to you, Lillian.
Thank you very much, Jude, and good afternoon, everyone who is present here and present virtually. I'm going to introduce our moderator, who is none other but Peter Sumfotangie, who is the president of the Northwest branch of Anglophone Cameroon Writers Association. So if you are a writer, you better join. He taught English language and English literature in many secondary and high schools in Cameroon and also in the United States, I think, and also drama and theater arts on a part-time basis in ENS Bambili for so many years. He served as principal for 19 years in GHS Bafut, GHS Santa, GHS Bamenda, Kamlung, and GHS Bamenda Downtown. He was also chief examiner for A-level English literature in English for a long time. Tangie was highly acclaimed for the program Literary Workshop, a program of creative writing and literary criticism over CRTV Bamenda, which aired in the 80s and 90s. He is presently co-producer of Writers Club over the same station, albeit from Maryland, where he now resides after retirement from Cameroon Public Service. He has self-published 2 plays and is a reputed theater and film actor and director. And one other thing which is not in this bio, which I must highlight, is that Peter Tangie is doing an awesome job bringing people's literary writings to light in TikTok. If you haven't seen, look for him up in TikTok, and he is doing something really wonderful. I'm a beneficiary of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof, do I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Jude and Professor Liliana Tanga, for the opening statements. I'm humbled, Prof. Atanga, with your intro. Sometimes when you listen to someone else talk about you, you wonder whether you are the one. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Professor Jude and Spears Publishers in general for the wonderful work they are doing in promoting not just our literature, but the culture of reading. And book launches like this are very, very important. He has already stated some of the reasons. When I think about a book launch, one thing that comes to my mind is a research that was going on to prove that reading is much more of an active skill because we usually talk about reading and listening as dormant skills because you only receptive, you know. But there was research that reading in itself is also active because when you are reading, you are interacting with characters, with the events and things that are going on in a book. And in a book launch like this, we are out to enhance that sort of interaction. It is true that a book launch, the first thing that comes to mind is selling the book. But for a book launch of this quality and of the sort of book that it is, starting discussions on the book enables us to read the book with greater attention and with greater understanding. There have been arguments whether a biographical approach to criticism is something relevant. But I think that when an author is present and is able to shed light on some aspects of his book, it makes a difference when you are reading that book. So we are really excited to have Father Tatah here, who is, I mean, if sometimes I wonder whether you want to call him a priest or a politician or a traditionalist, or he just has so many caps. Many times I've listened to his homilies, and I know that he likes to quote from a man for all seasons, because I think he likes the character of Thomas More. I describe Father Tatah as a priest for all seasons because you see him. I mean, there is nothing about life that he will not bring into his homilies in order to make it both interesting and much more impactful. So thank you very much for Father Tatah for gathering us, and we look forward to getting exciting moments from your book. Of course, the reviewers are people that if you are somebody in the world of academics, if you don't know them, then I don't know. Then perhaps you are still in high school. I am talking about Professor Willibroad and Professor Victor Gomia. I've not yet seen Professor Gomia. I hope he's there.
He's on his way. He's on his way.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so these are our reviewers, and as I am saying, these are reputed scholars in our academia. Prof Jude is doing a lot, not Prof Jude, but Prof Victor Gomia is doing a lot in promoting creative competition. They just recently launched the BB competition to remember Bate Bison and Bole Butake, and I think that is a wonderful effort. And of course, I've listened to Professor Willibroad, especially arguing about our history, which appears to be, I would say, sometimes controversial. You know, we depend on historians to put records right, but there are quite some controversies. Most exciting is the presence of Professor Anthony Ndi, my high school history teacher. He's the one teacher I remember who was a teacher. I don't know how to explain this, but when you see, there are teachers and there are teachers. There are some that stand in front of you and you know this is business time. There are some who are there just to tell stories and entertain you. And Prof would forever remain one of my best teachers and an icon that I've tried to emulate as much as possible. The other big names here, you are welcome. We can't mention everybody. You are here because you know the importance of reading. You are here because you know the importance of us promoting one another. It's not easy on a Saturday to take time to sit on your computer to do a Zoom meeting. We are all welcome. We look forward to a wonderful time, and there will be more comments as we get along. With those introductions, well, I just wanted to say that the title of the book in itself, one of the things when you get into writing is how to catch the reader's attention. Forms of traditional Bamenda and partisan politics in Cameroon. These are very large topics. Just talking about funds in Cameroon is a whole cycle. Talking about traditional Bamenda as opposed to maybe urban Bamenda, and talking about partisan politics is not politics but partisan politics. In fact, I'm looking forward so much to our reviewers and to Professor Ndi to shed light on this. I know Father Tatah would have a lot to clarify on this, but we are also be very interested in what people who are not him see in his book. It's going to be an exciting time, I'm very sure. With that said, therefore, I would like us to move on to, sorry, the way the program was sent, it wasn't...
Yeah, I think I'll go on with introducing the author.
Okay, all right. I think that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So, a lot of us know Reverend Father Tatah Mbuy, but today we'll know him in a different light as an author to a very special book. He is a Catholic priest ordained for and incardinated into the Archdiocese of Bamenda, Cameroon. He was born and bred in Tatah Mbuy Parish in the Jakiri subdivision of Mbuy, Northwest region in Cameroon. Father Tatah is of the Mbuy family, which is an extract of the Nso lineage, essentially anchored to the paramount fondom of Nso. Father Mbuy, and he is more popularly known in the literary world, attended primary school in St. Peter's and St. Mary's Catholic School, Kisenjam and Kar, respectively. Went for a year to the Agri School in St. Augustine's College, Mbo, and proceeded for 7 years studies in the minor seminary, Bishop Rogan College, small support Boya. He then studied philosophy and theology, that's a BA in philosophy and a BD in theology. And he has also studied African literature, having a bachelor's degree in it, translation studies, having a diploma in it, before settling on bioethics, where he also obtained a master's in science degree. He also has a master's in science of communication and cultural, and a PhD in cultural anthropology. That is loaded. He is currently researching to upgrade in communication. And one may ask, does he really need to do it after all we've heard? Yes, that is Father Tatah Mbuy, who was ordained as a priest by His Holiness, interestingly, by Pope St. John Paul II, and has served almost all the dioceses of the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province, mainly in education. He has a deep interest in pastoral work and has been parish priest for 6 years in Christ the King Parish, Fulicom, which then was the only parish in the present Bello subdivision for over 2 years. He trekked for days in Womb to research witchcraft and the occult at Wei Esu, Bavmen, and Furawa. Tatah Mbuy has published many books and articles. His 25th book is entitled studying the faith of our ancestors. New Perspectives to African Traditional Religion, Yaoundé 2023. Other provoking publications include Understanding Witchcraft in the Life of an African, published in Owerri in 1996. Poems of Black Africa, a Critique, published in 1990. The Defeat of the Sons of Baal in 1980, which won a national first winner prize in drama. Sex, Cults, and New Religious Movements in Cameroon, published in 2006. Fons of Traditional Bamenda and Partisan Politics in Cameroon, initially published in 2022. And he is currently writing The Myth and Reality of Witchcraft Amongst the Tika. This is just a snippet of who Father Tatah is. And if you know him, you know he is a lot more than that. And he impacts different people at different levels on a daily basis, from when he wakes up from bed to when he goes to bed. Welcome, Father Tatah Mbuy.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof. I wish we could really give a hand for that wonderful bow. You know, like I said earlier on, Father Tatah is just so much. I noticed when Prof said, reach a certain point, said, this is loaded, and asked whether he needs to continue with research. Father Tatah will continue with research until the day God calls him. I know him very well, full of energy and very inspiring. We'd like to have a word from you, Father Tatah Mbuy.
Well, I feel so flattered with such from such eminent scholars as you. I more often people call me in Bamenda the head catechist. That's just all, and that's what I prefer more. I thank God about all of this, and I think for me there are three things that matter a lot to me. The first thing is the very fact of being a priest. That was my life dream. And that I'm a priest, I am happy with that. Next year is my 40th anniversary as a priest. That I look forward with great joy, having been ordained, which humiliates me, by a saintly Pope John Paul II. The second thing that I would like to highlight in my life is, as a priest, I have been very much involved in grooming and bringing up young people. My best moments are when I am teaching. That's why I've been so excited that after serving 6 years in the National Episcopal Conference, the bishops of Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province asked me to come to Katuk, Bamenda, where I am and where I took up office this morning to start in the Catholic University in Bamenda. It's my joy. That's one of the things I love very much. Then writing is one of the things that I share, because the late Professor Bernard Fondon, on the day of my ordination, he told me only one thing: publish or perish. And I decided, okay, every year with late Father Christian Mofo, we decided that every year we would do at least one research paper and keep. And the last thing that triggers me off is being able to leave something for the generation coming. You see, many people, we talk a lot, we do a lot, but we hardly think of the children who are going to come after us, who will not have the opportunities that we have had. I thank God that I've had some of the best teachers in my life, honestly, some of the best teachers that I could have had. And with that, there is an obligation, a moral obligation, to also leave something for those coming after me. I like to tell you people that I have finished the work on the myth and reality of witchcraft is done, and already finished a second one, which is on the fake news and the right of the citizen to the truth. I'm on the third because I made a promise that I was going to publish 4 books for my anniversary. The third is going to be on the spiral of silence and the role of the church in the armed conflict in the Anglophone region. And the last one was going to be putting together faith-seeking understanding, which many people have been asking to be put into a book. Thank you all very much. About the Fons of Traditional Bamenda, we will say more later on. Thank Thank you very much. God bless you all.
God bless you even more, Father Tatah Mbuy. Even just the few minutes that you have used, again, those few minutes are loaded. To quote my sister, they are loaded. A priest, a teacher, a writer. These things touch you to your core, and in fact, you are just perfect in all of them. Congratulations on your getting to Katuk. I think that's one of the places that you really belong in order to promote the spirit of research. Congratulations. You might coax some of us to start thinking about coming over there. Faith seeking understanding. I've listened to a few editions, and in fact, we really need a publication of that series. It's a wonderful series. You don't just have this research background, but your manner of presentation. Anyway, from your bio, we see that you've read communication left and right. So we are very happy with the way that you impact society. Thank you very much, Prof. And Prof. Jude, any comment you want to say, any interjection for something?
Yes. So again, thank you all for those wonderful introductions. And I think I'm just looking at the program here, and we are supposed to move to the launch. What I wanted to say is that because not a lot of people have bought the book yet, we would share the information on our platforms on how you may purchase a copy of the book. But nevertheless, we will still do our traditional thing, which is congratulating the author. I know most people here are yet to purchase, but if you happen to have a copy of the book, it's an opportunity for you to, again, turn on your camera and hold a copy of the book, so that we can all congratulate and celebrate this milestone. It's an important moment. Now, when you all were talking about Father Tatah, I just felt so much joy in me because he's one of my mentors, and we have so much work to do together. He mentored me in Sacred Heart in womb. We've been together for many years. And Cameroon Research Center, we were also trying to revive it. And I have to say that this platform is really inspired by the absence of the Cameroon Research Center, which he and I and Professor Ndi, who is here, we tried to revive in the early 2000s. And so this is really a joyful moment for me in many ways. And I'm so excited to, again, just hear people's thoughts and opinions on the book, especially for those who have read it, and also, of course, for those who look forward to acquiring a copy of the book. One quick update, we will not be able to have Professor Gomia join us. He's stuck somewhere, unfortunately, against his wishes. He's not in prison, by the way. So, let's be very clear. All right, he's just stuck against his wishes, and he's not able to make it to this event today. So I think this is where we will proceed to just, again, congratulate Father Tatah and say, well done. We're proud of you. Keep the books coming, and we look forward to, again, collaborating on future editions of some of those books that will be coming out, so that people outside of Cameroon can also get a copy. And also, of course, congratulations on your 40th Jubilee that is coming up. We are all looking forward to that milestone.
Okay. Are we holding up the books?
Yes, we will do so. I do not know if there are, I know there are a couple of people here who have those, a copy of the book. Larry, Tilong, I know you are here. Thank you for purchasing a copy of that book. He's one person who supports our platform and reads voraciously. So, Neil Lawrence, if you're here and you can hear me, the Silvermans in Toronto, thank you. I know you guys purchased a copy of the book as well. Right. So, Mr. Tange, you want to do you want to oversee this moment?
Okay. Well, just that do the persons have the books up? Put on your cameras and hold up the books. I'm seeing just that of Professor Jude. Professor Tanga, do you have it?
She has it on her background.
Yeah. So could the technical room change the settings so that those who have we'll see those who have the books. So
we have the gallery mode on, so we can actually see those who have a copy of the book. So we pleased to see the Silvermans. Hello, hope Toronto as well.
Okay. All right. So, Father Tatah Mbuy, these are the few copies that are up, but we are very confident that more will be bought. And after this launch, we are very sure that people will be excited to get copies. Congratulations again, and let the ink keep on flowing. Congratulations. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Super.
Okay, with that ritual done, we bless the book and we put it out in the market. We will now call on our main reviewer. Like I said earlier on, if you are in the academia and you don't know his name, you have not listened to him, then perhaps you are not really following up with Cameroon history and Cameroon politics. He's one person I respect a lot, even though we scarcely meet. His intellectual know-how, his sense of research, and just everything. Professor Willibroad Dze-Ngwa, we would like to hear your reaction to this wonderful book, and we thank you for finding the time to share with us your appraisal of the book. Professor Willibroad.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I think there is no way I shouldn't have found time to be able to give my own appraisal. I want to thank the Spear Books and the organizers of this event, especially Reverend Father Tatah Mbuy, the author, for including me in this review. I feel rather frightened by the might. I'm glad that my teacher, Dr. Ndi or Professor Ndi is here. I think I will express my concerns when I was asked to do this book review. Let me note that I did not feel very comfortable. I was scared. Scared because firstly, the book is written by an exemplary scholar, an anthropologist, a cleric, a philosopher, whose rank and experience is far, far, far. I think there is a wow. Whose book am I supposed to review? Secondly, I felt a bit uncomfortable because we are supposed to speak from the same podium with some of the most interesting minds. And then thirdly, I felt a bit very worried, I should say, because the document is very interestingly sensitive and controversial, which has attracted many scholars and readers. The fourth concern is that we have a moderator whom I call the master, the no-nonsense Peter Tanguy Sufo. Another worry is that could I actually review this book? But of course, I dutifully accepted the challenge because as an exemplary cleric, teacher, philosopher, Father Tatah Mbuy has always wanted to share the matter in him. He just said so. One of the things we have just noted is that he needs to publish for posterity. So since he wants to publish for posterity, I took pleasure to say, yes, I would be happy to be involved in this academic debate in search of reconstructing the hitherto blurred and confused appreciation of the role of traditional rulers in the politics of traditional Bamenda, that is contemporary Northwest and Southwest region. Now, let me go straight to the point to say history holds that the Fons, the natural rulers, had enormous powers over the populations even before the advent of colonialism. The British took advantage of these powers and put together what we call the Southern House of Chiefs to benefit them, to benefit from the powers which the local rulers actually had. Now, reading through the book, I tried to ask myself, what is the raison d'etre of this book? What is the principal idea? The book, Fons of Traditional Bamenda in Partisan Politics and Partisan Politics in Contemporary Cameroon, Reconstructing Identity and Cultural Meaning, is a 136-page volume, including a front matter and the cover pages, in which Tatah Mbuy revisits the history and evolution of traditional power in the current Northwest region of Cameroon. He raises the concerns about the deletion of the hitherto powerful natural political institutions in traditional Bamenda, which has been effaced by partisan politics in contemporary Bamenda. I am going to use contemporary Bamenda and traditional Bamenda so that we make a difference. Tatah Mbuy, in this volume, tries to reconstruct the original identity and true cultural meaning of who the Fon in traditional Bamenda was and what he should be. The main question to ask is, should Fons in particular and traditional rulers in general actively participate in partisan or competitive politics? That should be the main idea. The author vividly captures and unveils the intricacies in this argument, which is affecting traditional governance in general and that of the Northwest region, or what we call from traditional to contemporary Bamenda. Traditional would mean the real Bamenda, where we had the traditions and customs of the people respected, and contemporary Bamenda would mean where these powers have been diluted. The author uses the expression traditional Bamenda purposefully to symbolize the identity, the sacredness, and the protection of the culture of a people at all costs. But what were these powers of the Fons in traditional Bamenda? Getting through the book, Tatah Mbuy emphasizes that the Fon in traditional Bamenda had enormous powers. Principally, they had more powers over their populations than even the colonial masters. The Fon was a unique institution in himself, and not as an individual. So the Fon is an institution who incarnates love, protection of an entire community, which was far different from the person in the Fon. We realize that through indirect rule, the British, the traditional authorities, the Fons advised the colonial administrators on traditional matters. The Fons helped in conflict management, collected taxes for the colonial masters, organized their populations, and of course, they were custodians of the culture of the people. The Fon was a representative of his entire people without discrimination and bias. We find that in the book. He was a symbol of neutrality and impartiality. He was not involved in partisan politics. He was custodian of the land and culture, a traditional high priest, a father of everyone, the main actor of the common good of his people. The Fon had the final word in his entire fondom. Now we see this running through the books, the current book. Tatah Mbuy gives many examples of some of these Fons of traditional Bamenda, including Fon Binkar being lost, the same the third of the Sor Fondom, Fon Achirimbi II of Bafut, Fon Ngam of Kom, Fon Galiga II of Bali Nyonga, Fon Angwafo the third of Mankon, who lived and experienced some of the powers of traditional Bamenda. These Fons wielded much power in traditional Bamenda, especially in the 1960s and 70s. We realized, you see this in some of the pages, page 9, we realized that the Germans and the British colonial authorities respected the powers of these Fons. The British even recognized their powers and created the House of Chiefs, which lasted from 1961 to 1972. Even religious authorities, when preaching and spreading and converting the population, respected the wishes of these traditional authorities and did not step on their bounds. Even President Amadu Ahijo respected their powers to an extent at the initial phase, respected their boundaries, and even when visiting some of the top Fons, rather than causing these Fons visit him, he went to pay allegiance, showing the enormous powers that these Fons incarnated. But what have these powers become today? The powers of the Fon in contemporary Bamenda. Remember, I said we are going to use traditional Bamenda, and I'm going to add contemporary Bamenda to mean the present. In contemporary Bamenda, we are going to begin with the laws of 1977, the chieftaincy law, which brought enormous changes in the attitudes and powers of both the chiefs and the administration, retelling the relationship. Now, today, in contemporary Bamenda, these chiefs have become auxiliaries to the colonially shaped administrators who categorized, classify, and even create and appoint some of the Fons and chiefs in traditional Bamenda. Administrative authorities have become bosses over the land of the landlords, the Fons. Some actively became politicians or involved in competitive politics. It became worse in the 90s, with Fons, Ardos, Sultans, Lamidos competing for power position with their subjects, call it their children. Today's Fons in traditional Bamenda or traditional contemporary Bamenda have positioned or are positioning themselves in multi-party politics, especially with a sprinkle of a stipend called salary. They too want a salary to feed from national coffers. So they are willing, some, to sacrifice all their powers to go for this cheap, insignificant funding in the name of salaries. The Fons in contemporary Bamenda raised unnecessary competitions with their subjects, which was a sacrilege and unacceptable in traditional Bamenda. Professor Dr. Mbuy, call him doctor, of course, with his PhD, holds that through careful research, the majority opinion of the subjects was that the Fon should remain neutral in partisan politics and should never publicly express or identify with one party over another, unquote. Now, what has been the major effect of the erosion of the powers of the Fons in traditional Bamenda? The most important identifiable consequence would be the confusion that exists between the Fon as an individual and the Fon as an institution. Another clear consequence is that the power has seriously been eroded. Tatah Mbuy argues that the overt involvement of the Fons in partisan politics in support of the ruling party during the period of the armed struggle in the Anglophone regions today has caused many of the Fons to escape from the backyards of their palaces, and they are today found as IDPs far away from their palaces. He argues that their partisanship, quote, was largely responsible for a good amount of the atrocities associated with the armed conflicts in southern Cameroon from 2016 to 2021. Tatah Mbuy is emphatic that in traditional Bamenda, the Fon remains a high priest and not an administrator, not to talk of being an auxiliary to the administrator. It cannot be taken out of his spiritual context. That is the argument of Tatah Mbuy, that the Fon in traditional Bamenda should not be taken away from the context of his spirituality. In comparative terms, Tatah Mbuy insinuates that for decades, the Mbok of the Bassa country refused to be associated with or be recruited in the Cameroonian administration. The Mbok always insisted that as the core traditional institutions of authority, it is concerned with something more cultural, more spiritual, more sublime, which gives profound meaning to the Bassa as a people, unquote. Tatah Mbuy states unequivocally that just like in the Mbok society, the Fon is not and should not be under the impulse of any political authority, unquote. These are his cultural convictions. We could discern. Tatah Mbuy's book is divided into three parts, each divided into chapters. This book is divided into 7 chapters, written in simple language and makes for excellent reading. In the first part, the traditional ruler of Bamenda, he highlights the divine institution of the divine powers of the Fon. He categorizes the traditional rulers. He talks about the corporate and moral person, the locus of neutrality and justice, and of course, the custodian of cultural legacy. That is a summary that Mbuy gives to the traditional Bamenda Fons. In chapter 2, he talks about the Fons' divine authority, the bonding of the living and the living dead. That is, the Fon is a link between the living and the living dead. The Fon is chosen and accepted by the ancestors. The Fon is primarily a traditional high priest. He insists that the Fon is a paramount ruler of the land and his people. And we want to emphasize on the word paramount. It means he takes no other powers from whosoever, political party or politician. He insists that the Fon is a manager of the common good of the greatest majority of the people he is called upon to administer. In chapter 3, he states clearly that the Fon is at the heart of public relations through intermediaries, direct relations with and between the Fons, the reasons for the House of Chiefs. He gives us a clear reason why in the 1960s there was the establishment of the House of Chiefs. He talked about the role of the Fon in conflict management and war. He talks about how the Fon negotiates for the common good. In chapter 4, he talks about the evolution. This is, I consider, the heart of the book, when we see the evolution of traditional Bamenda to contemporary Bamenda. We are talking about multi-party politics and the rule of the Fon. He highlights multipartism in Cameroon under the Germans, through the French and the British, multipartism during the federal setup, of course, which was later dissolved. He talks about a single political party, that's monolithism, from 1966 to 1982 under the presidency of Mr. Ahijo. And then he does some analysis of the same single political setup from 1982 to the forceful launching of competitive politics, which we call a rebirth of competitive politics in the 1990s. And then he talks about multi-partism from 1990 to 2021 under Mr. Biya. In chapter 5, he talks about the Fons of democracy and partisan politics in Cameroon. That is their involvement. Of course, common knowledge. What is democracy? He goes back to the analysis of what democracy is, what democracy in Cameroon is, making the difference. Because there is democracy and there is some sort of a contextualized democracy in Cameroon, which are spearheaded by Cameroonian politicians. And then he talks about the Fons and multi-party democracy in Cameroon, how the Fons are divorcing gradually from their original powers to flirting into political parties, partisan political parties, and getting into friction with their children. Part 3 is another very interesting portion of the book, which is talking about in search of meaning. Tatah here wants to do a reconstruction of the identity, where he talks about the culture in a changing society. Culture is permanently changing, but is it all culture that should change to the detriment of the natural powers of the Fons? He talks about reconstructing ethnicity and identity, and then repairing the cultural sacrilege and ancestral anger. To Tatah, there should be ancestral anger when the cultural values of the Fons have been tampered with by their engagement in competitive politics. And then he advises on some sort of rebuilding the social psyche. Rebuilding would mean that there is an existing society and there is currently another society which is adversely affecting that power structure in traditional Bamenda. In chapter 7, the last chapter, he talks about restoring the dignity of the Fons. You get that around page 108 of his book. In this restoring the dignity of the Fons, who restores that dignity? Is it the government? Is it politicians? Or should it be the people whose welfare the fund is supposed to defend?
Prof, I'm not stopping you. Hello, Prof, I'm not stopping you, but I'm just indicating that we are looking at the time. It's very interesting, so we could...
I am getting to the end.
Okay, thank you.
That is the last chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so he's talking about autonomy, we talk about the working of the common good again, and he's talking about the restoration of the divine authority. He insists that the divine authority of the fund should be restored. And then he concludes. Let me note that the volume is a very interesting piece for every researcher to be able to grasp. All students of politics, be it contemporary politics or the politics of administration. But we cannot review a book, if you permit, without giving a critique or a criticism. I wish to note a few. That it is not only the funds, not only the funds of the CPDM or the funds are supporting the ruling party, because he talked about that the funds have escaped from the Northwest region because they are supporting the ruling party. It was not a matter, to the best of my appreciation, about just the political parties. Now, the other worry, a critique, is how supportive are the subjects to their funds in the cause of re-establishing the old traditional Bamenda. And that is why we think that there should be a tax system within every community to get the funds to be truly autonomous. Just what we call glissement in Cameroon, a slight mixture of it. It is said in page 12 that the armed conflict arguably started in 2016, but it should be 2017. 2016, not 2017. The book also highlights the powers of the Mbongbok of the Basal region. But let us note that it is not only the Fons powers which have been eroded, but the Mbongboks too also suffer from this erosion of their political power. The work should have been more interesting if it clearly articulates the thoughts of the promoters of contemporary Bamenda politics. To the best of my appreciation, the work is very clear what the author wants to pass on. But if we brought in the other perspective of what the people who are promoting the modern contemporary Bamenda politics say, and then get to the conclusion, is going to get to greater understanding. I want to thank you very much. These are the 1, 2, 3 that I could pick from the book. It is a wonderful book that everybody should be able to procure and read. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Willibroad. Thank you so much. This is what we call an intimate review. You're going into the the details of the content, and you were also even able to praise the structure of the work. I am very much more excited with the critical comments at the end. And I know that there are more controversies that come up when we are talking about funds and politics. Father Tatah's message is clear. The immense powers of the funds have been eroded or diluted, as you to quote Professor Willibroad. And he says that the powers have been eroded, diluted by cheap, insignificant funding from the government. Noted that expression. And of course, that is true. When this idea of salaries was introduced for the funds, this is when things started falling apart. Thank you, Professor, for that review. Like I say, you are merely, this is just consciousness raising about aspects of the book that we'll appreciate better when we actually get copies. It's time for me to indicate that to those of us who are following up that Spears would definitely put the link that for us to get copies of the book on the in the chat section. So we are free to start ordering our own copies. We are going to come and officially ask for those who like to declare what they have done. So feel free to use the link to order your copies. And one thing I know about Spears Publishers is that once you order anything from them, a copy of the book in record time, the book arrives, you know. So once more, thank you, Professor Willibroad. We sincerely miss Professor Victor Gomia. Would have liked to hear. Prof Willibroad is a historian, and of course, history has a lot to do with politics and rulership. You know, we're always talking about people ruling here and there. I would have liked to listen to Professor Gomia, look at this from the perspective of a literary critic. Unfortunately, we miss him due to circumstances beyond his control. We will therefore just go straight to Prof Jude. Maybe you want to punctuate before we go to Professor Anthony Ndi.
No, I think let's bring in Professor Ndi.
Okay, so
share some remarks. Yeah.
Right. So, Professor Ndi, you have listened carefully to the review from your students. You have, I'm sure, you have worked with Father Tatah Mbuy over several projects, and you are the ancien amongst us in terms of how chieftaincy has been evolving and what it looks like today. Your appraisal, Professor Ndi.
Thank you very much, Peter. I hope I'm getting across.
Yes, you are. You are.
Okay. And you will forgive me if I don't use all the titles, professor, this, and that. I just call it by the names. I called you when you were sitting there in front of me as my students. The people I knew you to be at the time. It's a wonderful opportunity you've given me, beginning with the Spears publications by Jude Fokwang, whose father was, and that's the capacity in which I'm going to talk. Jude's father was an in-law, a colleague, and we very much did things together. So the approach which I would like to take in this forum, that it is one in which I see myself, I always knew as a teacher, as I think you've initially pointed out, even when I was teaching, I could see my betters in the students I taught. I could see the future, what was possible with those children sitting in front of me. And a good teacher should see himself as somebody, as a farmer who plants a seed and watches it grow until it towers. This is what I'm seeing with all of you on the panel. And how much I admire somebody like Willibroad, working where he is right now with Fons, my classmate back in college, in the situation which you have back at home. Because if I am here, I am very much an IDP. And so I thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. And I'm not going to get into any real discussion on the book as much as to say that I was there when the atmosphere was being constructed for the institution through which Reverend Father Humphrey Tatah Mbuy went through. So my mission on this forum this afternoon is not merely to make observations on the 25th publication of Reverend Father Tatah Mbuy, but to affirm a few basic facts about the phenomenal writer, philosopher, theologian. He has all those qualities difficult to define at this stage. I see him here. I see him as just a work in progress. If we are talking of Father Tatah Mbuy as a product of St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary, I see him as work in progress, God's work in progress. And I wish to attest to the fact that I was a contemporary of his formators, mentors, and his heroes. Whether you are talking of Archbishop Paul Verzekov, whether you are talking of Bishop Pius Suawa, whether you're talking of Christian Cardinal Tumi, or you're talking of Professor Bernard Nsokika Fonlong, who was his divine inspiration, call it what? It inspired him, in that angle. But again, even more, that Professor Fonlong was there, and it was his approach. After having, we usually call him as the priest without orders, but his spiritual contribution to Stamps Bambui, such that it produced the likes of the Humphrey Tatah Mbuy. Because it is there that his intellectual, spiritual, and mental faculties were nourished and blossomed. Now, having said that, it was Monsignors Paul Verzekov and Pius Suawa, whom we refer to as the twin prelates of Buya and Bamenda dioceses, whose obligation was to found a regional major seminary after the secession of Cameroon from Nigeria, the Onitsha diocese, where the Cameroonian priests were trained in bigger memorial seminary. They had to found their own seminary where they could train priests their own way. So the man who was behind the program, after sustainment, where they were sustained but constructive debates on the curricula that had to be used in the new institution, was Professor Bernard Nsokika Fonlon. As I said, the priest without orders. And he is, as you would know, everybody would know, suppose who are here and who were there, that he was the author of The Genuine Intellectual. And he prescribed wholly intellectual priests of the future who could stand their ground, not only on the pulpit, also anywhere in the academic arena. And when we say that and we look at what Stamps has been and what it has done since 1973, we see that the products of that seminary reflect that image, and the image of St. Thomas Aquinas himself. You graduate from there with the curriculum which was proposed and taken on board by Professor Fonlon, that just by with the high entry qualifications into the seminary, and then eventually being ordained, come out with a minimum of 2 degrees. You come out with a degree in philosophy and theology. So the important thing that we should note here is that the hierarchy in the Bamenda and Mbuy dioceses selected and committed the dream into the hands of the Reverend Father Christian Wigan to me as the pioneer rector. Was the right person, the right job, at the right time. Years later, he invited me and my wife, my late wife. We were then staff of Cas Bambili, where a good number of you are referring. I was a teacher. And I'm so proud of you, so proud of you. And I actually feel humble when I see where you are now relative to what you were in those days. He invited us to take accommodation, to move from Bambili to meet him in Mbuy, where he made accommodation available. And so that is the important thing here, is that we moved there at a time when Reverend Father Humphrey Mbuy, was admitted in the major seminary. Father Tatah Mbuy, got, like, at the time, we got so completely. He was a seminarian, quite all right. My family on the campus, our children growing up, they were also intertwined. That, he influenced them, they influenced him, and he was so much part of the family. And that is how I see Father Tatah Mbuy and myself, that he was, call it a younger brother, or yes, not a son quite. And we could see what was going to come out of the person who he was at the time. His family, I think, is already described in the book. From if we look at his heritage, talk of Mr. Mbuy of the Mbuy and Sons brick manufacturing factory at Mile 3 Gwen. We talk of General Ivo Yenwo at the presidency. We talk of Dr. Yenwo at Sonara. And then you can count many others, who come from that pedigree. And interestingly, from the Mbuy family, you can shout and get you can get the Jumbams. Are you talking of led one Jumbam? I mean, Kenjo one Jumbam, or are you talking of Martin, who is here on the forum? We come from the same area. And one other point I should make here is that we talk of Christianity and so, and the production of priests and religious. People think that it's always Chisang, it's always elsewhere, but the bulk come from Kar. And that is not what we have to discuss here. But again, we have Father Tatah Mbuy as a product of that parish. Excuse me. When you look at his qualifications, beginning with 7 years at the minor seminary in Sopo, and proceeding to Bambuy, Tans Bambuy. For another, it could have been, I think it's about 9 years, with 2 degrees in his pocket, philosophy, theology, then BA in African literature, MSc in bioethics, MSc sciences, communication, PhD in cultural anthropology, and diploma in translations. One wonders whether he's not competing with Thomas Aquinas, whose name it is, whose character it is, whose image it is, that products of that institution seek to become. If you take that and leave it at the level of just qualifications, it's far too much for an individual anywhere at all on the globe. When you look at Reverend Father Humphrey Mbuy, you find that he speaks perfect English, he speaks perfect French, he speaks Latin, he speaks Pidgin English, he speaks Lamso, he's fluent in Taikom, and literally dialects in the Bamenda grasslands. I prefer to call it grasslands instead of dust fields. I think that is, you could see that he gives talents, very generous with some people and some families. And I think Father Tatah Mbuy should see himself as one of those whom God favored and still favors. Well, you've seen in his pastoral work where he served for 6 years, fully come, and the research in womb where Peso, Bafmeng, and Fruawa. Here again, even who and I, even the patriarch I am, I still remember that. I think it was when he was they were crossing the Kasinala. Whether it was him or it was one deal, they both tumbled, and I don't know how he made it across. But that is one of those things which, it's not for mention here. But anyway, I think here we know about what he is. It's not just when you take Peter will tell us more about literary works. So will many others on the forum. But there he is as a literary writer. But you see him writing about witchcraft, in the life of an African. At the same time as he's writing, I mean, he has poems on Black Africa. And I think one of those things which happened when we were there was the defeat of Baal, the defeat of the sons of Baal. I think that was when we were in Bambuy, when he produced that book. And one of the things I did, which I think Father Tatah Mbuy should know, is that I used to buy the time when he was there at home and the money was available. I bought the books he produced and gave them out as gifts for different occasions to friends, whether it was Christmas, was Easter, or whatever. So the books were so good, so tasteful, you would not want to keep that to yourself alone. So most of his publications, I got them, and I used them as cards for occasions.
Prof, I'm not stopping you, Prof, but we would like you to run up so that we can get to questions
then I will
and answers
do
and
the next few minutes. I didn't know I would take so much time. I would like to say that he is written very well. The book is so, as Professor Dze-Ngwa put out, is very well written. But I want to bring you people to the fact that when we are talking about funds in partisan politics, it's not only partisan politics that are grading the funds. You have economic factors that are coming in, economic forces. Of modernism, you have Christianity, where we talk of enculturation and things like that. They are also, eating off what used to be sacrosanct powers of the funds. And then if we flash back our minds that we are not been talking of multipartism, the fact that the funds got together and made the leader of the country one of funds. Where on earth, where in traditional Bamenda, you have funds crowning funds? The funds don't crown themselves. Funds are crowned by kingmakers, not by other funds. And funds have titles like Mother Hen, and the palace was sanctuary for all seeking asylum from whatever. So what we have now is just the opposite, whether it is multipartism or it's one party. So my real contribution will relate to my real contributions will relate to the fact that I have published several books bearing on the same themes. Many of you will know about Mill Hill Missionaries, Prime Partners in Nation Building, 1922-1972, The Golden Age of Southern Cameroon's Vital Lessons of Cameroon, and recently and presently, The Reluctant Prince. That is where I think I make myself available, because this is what Reverend Dr. Tatah Mbuy has written, The Life I Have Lived, that I was selected by kingmakers, the fund of the fondom, which stretches from, when we talk of Mbum, where I come from, you go to Bum, then you go to Nse, you go to you go close to even in many areas. And so we have tentacles of the Wimbum, especially the Njebwar, where I was chosen to become fond, and I rejected. But I turned down the offer. It didn't work well with the authorities, traditional, and eventually even the political powers, or whoever it was. That was in 1985, and they followed me for 23 years. which is what I've put out in the Reluctant Prince. The Reluctant Prince puts into profile what Dr. Reverend Father Humphrey Mbuy has written. But I went through all these experiences in 23 years. And it's nothing which, so mine is a lived experience, and it's nothing which anybody will want to go through. And it brings out quite much about what is wrong and should be corrected. I don't know whether it can be corrected, because at one point you see that it's like a broken pot, a broken vessel which cannot be put back to shape. What has happened to our traditions and the Fons? The Fund was so many things. We didn't have parties. We have consensus. I mean, the privy councillors came together and debated, minimized all their differences until they got to they got into a common opinion or a common solution of a problem. That's why our fandoms remained very united and very unique. So mine is a lived experience. I think that the small contribution I can make, and maybe those who want to know more about what it is like to live the experience which Tatah Mbuy has written about, see what I've written in the Reluctant Prince, the Mbo succession crisis from 1985 to 2008. That merely saying I rejected the throne was not enough. The kingmakers chased me for 23 years. That gives you a foretaste of what it takes like if you are following what should happen traditionally. You know, all that is moving. I mean, so much has changed. And I don't know what else I can say apart from the fact that the broken vessel, broken pot, it will take a lot to carry out the repairs which he has proposed. With the Yorubas, what they used to do when an Oba or a ruler went out of hand, they simply got a pot, punctured it, and gave him to go and carry water. What it meant was that nobody would do anything to the Oba or to the rulers they have in Nigeria. You simply committed suicide yourself.
For sure, Prof.
I don't see that happening with funds. The changes that are proposed are very good, but they are difficult to be implemented. I have lived the experience. I know what it means. But the work is a well-researched book by somebody who knows and has what it takes to write what he has written. He has lived, you know, the experience practically in terms of going out for research on the issues which has raised in the book. But I'm just saying, in effect, that I mean, ultimately, that I live the experience, even in rejecting to become a Fon. Thank you very much, but I still will thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say what I have said. It will be much better for me. Whilst I recommend the book, to let you know that the copies also of the Reluctant Prince, it was produced by Destiny Printers in Bamenda, and copies are coming out with Amazon for people outside Cameroon. So I read my case, and I'm a dinosaur. And I think I should share these experiences. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much. Just listening to you is inspiration. You have touched on it. You have said many more things about Father Tatah Mbuy, some which we did not know. his multilingualism, for example. And I mean, just all that he is. We want to thank you for sharing that knowledge and touching on your experience of the experience that came to you. Perhaps you foresaw this corruption that is befalling our funds, and you decided to stay clear of it, which is something that we congratulate you for, and still challenge you that well, the intellectual that you are, you have asked a very important question here, whether the broken pot can be repaired. That's an important question, and I think that would depend on dinosaurs like you, to use your words, to see whether we can get the glue for this broken pot. That question and many more, there are some in the chat. And I guess that some of us would like to make contributions. Unfortunately, we are running out of our time. It was we thought we could get this for 1 hour 20 minutes. We are running out of our time, so I'll just give maybe the next 15 minutes for two things. 5 minutes for those who would like to buy their copies openly, because this is one aspect of launching. Declare that you are buying a good the number of copies. And we already want to thank Silvermans. They have already ordered 3 copies of the book. I would like, if some more people have ordered some of the books, I would like Prof Jude to announce. We're announcing not to boast, but it is part of the ritual of launching to declare what copies of the book have been bought. So, Professor Jude, if some people have bought some copies, I'm giving 5 minutes for this. Could you announce them? And those on the forum, if you want to buy some number of copies of book, one thing that is different between Zoom launching and face-to-face launching is the fact that here we go by the number of copies of book that you buy. In the face-to-face launching, you can give 100 million, but they'll give you 1 copy. So here you can declare the number of copies that you want to buy. You can buy for yourself. You can buy for some traditional rulers. You can buy for some politicians. It's a way of preaching the gospel against corruption, so to say. So I give 5 minutes for buying of copies of the book. You could declare it openly. You could order, and Prof Jude would announce it. Purchase of copies, that's what is going on now. And after that, we'll go to questions and answers. I guess I see a number of good guests here. I see Prof Gil Di Shang here, Mr. Martin Jumbam, very reputed writer, Margaret Ngunang, Lilian Dangam. I can't see everybody on this thing, so I'm just calling these names that I see and persons that I know. Please feel free to put in a contribution for just 1 minute when we finish this phase of buying copies. For now, Prof Jude, could you announce those who have bought copies? And audience, if you want to buy a copy, please could you declare, even if it's 1 or 2 copies?
Thank you so much, Mr. Tangier. You're doing such an excellent job. Thank you. Yes, I think we've had a purchase from Innocent Awasum. So that's another purchase that just came in. The Silvermans in Toronto bought 3 more copies. They had already bought a copy. So we are grateful for that. Just like Mr. Tangier said, you know, if you're not a reader, you can buy this for your family members who might be interested. So the link is there. Feel free to reach out if you don't want to pay through our platform. Feel free to reach out to us. For those who are, you know, in the Americas, you can buy and pay by Zelle or Cash App or some other method that we can, you know, agree on. So again, you don't have to make that payment on our platform if you're not interested in. However, I just need to reassure everybody that it's a very secure platform, and that whatever information you put there is encrypted and it is safe. So yeah, and thank you for still being here. We are really, really grateful for your patience, for your participation, and we look forward to your comments and questions as they come up shortly.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other person would like to announce their purchase of the book? I know the link is there. People are doing purchase privately. Any person would just want to give that opportunity?
Mr. Moderator, Martin Jumbam is my name. I will get a copy. I have a copy of the old one, which I got when I was in Douala. But I certainly will get a copy of from Spears Books, and
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will, have a small comment to make just when the time comes, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. I look forward to that comment, Mr. Martin Jumbam. Where the name Jumbam is, once you bear that name, you have a lot to give the public. I look forward to that comment. Thank you for your purchase. Any other person, please? Okay. All right. Okay, if you're not announcing now, like I said, we look forward
Royal
to...
Highness, Chief Wankem is here, and
okay.
I think it's one of the Fons, and would love to hear from him as well. Go ahead, Your Majesty.
Okay, thank you. Is Your Majesty there? The Fons are...
Yeah, I think we...
it will really be a good thing to hear the voice of a Fon on this program.
Mm-hmm. And Your Majesty, are you there? I know your hand is up. Your video is on. We just need to spotlight you. Okay. There we go. Your Majesty, go ahead, please. It looks like you're muted. Uh-oh. You have to check your microphone. You are unmuted from our end. Right. Oh.
Okay, as Your Majesty tries to walk his way through, I hope he's getting us. Please, the comments should be as brief as possible because a number of people want to participate. Thank you. As you find it, try to get your mic on.
Yes.
Your Majesty.
It's mostly like likely a hardware issue at his end. He's unmuted from our end, so okay. He says others can go ahead. He can hear.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Your Majesty. As you find your way through, this pressing of all these buttons is not a thing of your generation, so to say. So we look forward to getting the right button so that we can hear you. It's time for questions and answers. And when Professor Willibroad did his review, he asked a question, I would say, which I want to come to. The fact that if there are any criticisms that we have against the Fons for what is going on, he asked if the population it's playing its own role. Because sometimes you really see some Fons involved in some of these things because of hunger, so to say. And the administration, the population in itself has a certain voice. And that perhaps is why we're having some of the confusion that we're having now. The various, does anyone have an idea as to what the population does? Professor Ndi proposed what the Yorubas do. And I think there's also a question on the chat which is related to this. It's from Steve King. He says, from a legal and institutional perspective, is it possible to reincarnate the House of Chiefs? Well, this does not have to do with the population. But this is another question, whether it's possible to reincarnate the House of Chiefs as per Steve Kinga. And if so, what would be the criteria to join as a member? Again, we talk so much about the House of Chiefs. What is the criteria for joining? And does anyone have an idea of the role it can play in salvaging the situation? So there are a good number of these questions that have come up, and I know people have questions there. I'm just throwing this as sort of brainstorming. It's open now. Please indicate if you have a contribution, either to answer a question or ask a question, and make sure that you look at your watch and you take not more than 2 minutes. It's a difficult thing when you have a lot to say and you have to compress it, but this launch is being recorded and it must not exceed a certain time frame. We are already 1 hour 30 minutes since we started, so let us round this up in the next 10 minutes. Okay, so if you have a contribution or a question, please, this is the time. And I would like to start with Mr. Martin Jumba.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Just very briefly to say that I'm pleased that Father Mbuy did send his work to Spears because it's gone international, which is wonderful. Father Mbuy and I come from the same village as Professor Ndi had mentioned earlier. In fact, I consider Father Mbuy my junior, you know, so and we work together in the Catholic Ministry of Communication. So it's really my great pleasure to see him here and to be able to participate in this in launching one of his books. And there are really many, as had already been mentioned. So you know, that's my contribution. I thank, of course, PS Books for making this possible, that people at home who are writing their books can have a chance to have the books published internationally and launched, as Father Mbuy's book is being launched at the moment. All right, Mr. Moderator, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. And Moderator, you always do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you so thank you so much, Mr. Martin Jubam. I know your pen, I was commenting with Ba Fokwang before the Zoom started that your pen is very, very special. And now when it comes to contributing in a meeting and we say 2 minutes, you keep to it with precision as if, I don't know, God bless you. God bless all your talents too. Thank you very much. Any other contributor? Prof. Gilbert, would you like to tune in, please? I don't know if he's on. Whoever, please indicate. And but you'd watch out for those who indicate because I'm trying to see whether the hands are lifted.
Yeah, we have some team members in the background helping. So
okay.
People in the control room would be assisting.
All right. Anybody has a question or has a contribution?
Father Tatah wants to say something.
Okay, Father Tatah. I would have liked you to just listen maybe to the questions and reactions so that anyway, you can still come in as many times as possible. 2 minutes, 1 or 2 minutes for your intervention now. If any other questions come, then you always come up.
Has a hand up.
Say that again.
Lilian Fomonong has a hand up.
Okay. Okay, Father Tatah, if you can just be patient, let's take Lilian first because hearing a female voice just changes the taste of the whole thing. So let us listen to. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof, for recognizing the fact that when you hear a female voice, it changes things. And so we are here to bring change, of course. Anyway, I am Father Tatah Mbuy. Congratulations. I am an avid reader and I'm a student of history. This is not my professional field of study, but I read material from Spears Media because I have come to think that they are actually the best in promoting good writing and good content. And so I like to participate in anything that they are involved in as far as reading and writing is concerned. And I am also elated by the fact that Father Mbuy has put out this content. And I read I think it's one of his works, Christianity versus Witchcraft or Witchcraft versus Christianity. And I was really impressed. And I know Father Mbuy from way back when, I think when he was ordained, I was a student in Lourdes, and his niece or baby sister. Relindis is a classmate of mine. And so we go way back. So thank you, Father Mbuy, for this. And I will be procuring a copy of this book because, like I said, I am an avid reader and I love my culture. And I am truly very concerned about what is happening with the Fons of Northwest. But also I take it as a global happening because cultures are shifting and thinking is shifting across the globe. And our Northwest or Bamenda or Cameroon as a whole would not be an island. And so that change has to affect it. But how we manage that change is what is concerning. And with the current crisis that has happened, and we have now a whole generation of future leaders who have become not complacent by their own faults, but who have become, unfortunately, a group of what I would call fallen into the cracks of illiteracy. And it will be difficult to recapture this current group. And so we have that void and that vacuum. And unfortunately, I am sorry to say we lack visionaries in terms of our funds, because they have to be visionaries. They have to see beyond their own immediate needs. Well, that was the reason in the first place why the powers were given to them, so that they can be able to lead their people into the future without necessarily concerning themselves about their immediate needs. But then again, I also hear from what I think it was Professor Willibroad who just said about the fact that what are we as the population doing to help those funds such that we promote them, we maintain or we sustain that culture which we so long for, without having these funds do what they are currently doing to be able to survive. So it's a whole lot of concern, and it requires continuous brainstorming like what Father Mbuy has put out. And we will continue, and there is hope. As long as we are living, there is hope for survival and revival. So thank you all.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Ma Lilian. Thank you. You hear just the voice alone, you know, just changes the face of the luncheon. Thank you for procuring. Thank you for your remarks. And we hope that what Father Tatah has initiated in this book is going to make its own way towards contributing for the change that we are longing for. Yeah, so any other questions? Father Tatah had something to say, and while he will be making his remarks, let me just bring in this question, which is, I would say that he is trying to tickle the chiefs, the Fons, so to say. But one important term he uses is the fact that Fons are high priests. As you answer as you make your comment, Father Tatah, what about the priests like you, the men of God like you, who are also doing what the Fons are doing, getting into politics, whereas the population sees you people also as samples? Terms have been given here about the Fons as institutions that the population looks up to. We look up to the priests just as much as we look up to the Fons. What do you have to say? You cannot answer it now. Just one or two brief observations on that question, Father Tatah Mbuy.
Yeah, if I was going to come in.
Yeah.
Hello, are you getting me?
Yes, we're getting you.
Right.
Ask a question.
If I was coming in, wasn't to say something. It was just to announce that Katuk asked me to ask peers to send 50 copies to them.
Excellent.
50 copies of the book from Katuk. Katuk wants 50 copies. So that was what I wanted to announce. And for the long and short of it, whether it is a priest who is getting into partisan politics, for the priest, that is canonically not even allowed. And if he has to be, like happened in Haiti, he has first to be laicized. And it has shown from the example of Haiti that even when he's laicized, he doesn't necessarily make a good politician. So a priest, whether it's a traditional high priest or the ministerial priest, should stay clear out of partisan. I am very clear. partisan politics. You remain a political animal and you'll be part of it, but not partisan, because everybody involved in politics belongs to you.
Thank you very much. Very brief and to the point. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, because of time, I don't know what Bajur will say about this. We can't drag so much, but if His Royal Highness is ready now, maybe he could make his brief comment before we start getting towards rounding up the lunch.
I'm just sending a telephone number that he can use to dial into this conversation. He's having some technical difficulties. His mic is not letting the sound through. So I've just put, Your Majesty, if you can hear me, there's a telephone number on the chat. Use that number and dial in. Let's see if we can hear you. So Your Majesty says he grew up in Sok. I'm just reading from the chat, and I'm sure he has fond memories of his days in Sok land. So would love to hear his voice and his contribution. He says he plans to buy copies of the book for himself, but would love to hear from him as well before we wrap up. I know there are a good number of questions that
questions on the chat. Can we give those so that Father can answer?
So while he's trying to dial in, I think Father should comment on some of those questions.
Father, I hope you are seeing the questions, or do you need them
We
read?
can read it out.
Yes, okay, control room, you can read some, that's fine.
Okay. From Neil Lawrence Silong, who asked they would like to have an option of the people electing their Fons. This option, add this option in chapter 7. Is that worth a consideration as something to counter them being involved in partisan politics?
I can only talk from what we did in Sok. I led a group, and we started, we taxed all working Sok elite all over the world every month for everybody to put just 1,000 francs, just 1,000. And we were able, I'm happy to say, at least about the least 3 million. Now, if every month a fund has up to 3 million, that's already more than the government could even give him. If in every other ethnic group, the people also came together so as to hold, since the fund is an institution, that every month, all working people put aside, even just 500 francs, will be more than they could be receiving from government of helping our funds not to fall into the trap of those who want to get them because of money. That's something we have tried out, and it started working.
And it's so, is this still happening in Sok now?
I wouldn't want to say too much because it was happening until sometimes people confuse the person of the fund to the fund. The fund is an institution which has got the elders and has got the whole court of women and others. That is the fund. But somebody might think that it is for him, but it is not for one person, it's not for the person of the fund. It is for the fund, who is a composite being. And that's where the difficulties have started arising.
So you mean like the royalty as an institution and not just the person?
Yes, yes. That money is for royalty, is for the fund. When you talk of the fund, you mean the fund, the wives, the elders, that is the 7 people who are in the palace with him, and what makes the fund fund, if it's a real funder.
Right. I think the insistence on the fund as an institution is necessary. In some fundoms, they might not use the approach that you have used, but different quarters have days that they bring things to the palace, you know, whether it is salt or it is oil or it is things that would make the institution, because I mean, that would give the institution the dignity that it needs, so that it doesn't have longer through outside, you know. So it's a challenge. We cannot answer this question. It's a challenge if we are complaining that the powers of the funds are included. It's a challenge because we come from different fondoms, for us to see what we can do in our different villages to see that funds have the powers, the class that they have, and do not become what we are criticizing in this work. Thank you. And for control room, any other question that might need?
Yeah, Steve Kinga asked whether from a legal and institutional perspective it is possible to reincarnate the House of Chiefs, and what would the criteria be to join as a member? I know you touched about that.
We were all very happy, and I'm sure that Professor Ndi and Professor Willibroad can bear me out here. When they talked about the House of Chiefs as one of the special status for the Northwest, what we were expecting was a House of Chiefs according to how it used to be, where the chiefs are on their own without any political influence. And if there was any political problem, they brought it to the chiefs to traditionally handle it. Unfortunately, we have again overladen the present House of Chiefs with politics. And so you find, for example, the person who is appointed, who is elected as the head of the funds is not necessarily the one who should be. But if you left it to the funds, they have their own ways of doing it, because the hierarchy of the funds is very well known, and it is not possible for you to take a fund of a lesser rank to rule a fund of an upper rank. There are basically 5 paramount or 5 first-class funds in the Northwest. And these ones, the fund of Com, the fund of Balinyonga, and the fund of Bafut, and then the fund of Mancon by virtue of his urban situation. Otherwise, he would not have been. There were these 4. Now, these 5 are people whom you cannot just come and let some other person boss them around. So they had to be allowed to settle on their own how the House of Chiefs should be organized. I think that's where the error was made. So if Kinga is asking, it is possible. Secondly, it is possible for funds to remain politicians, to be political, to know when to run their politics without being partisan. That is where the problem comes.
Sure. Because everybody is a politician. You must vote, for example. That is politics and all that. But partisan politics is the emphasis. Thank you. Another question, Marilyn.
I just want to say that.
Let's get to another question.
I was going to say that I was happy that we have launching the book in Douala and Yaoundé. We had in each case at least 7 funds present in each of them. And they were very excited. They spoke to us and told us they themselves sometimes feel ashamed of what has happened to them.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. I hope, are they IDPs? Anyway, let me go to Lilian's question. Whether some of our funds actually know that they are institutions, right? And that they have a response, I guess in that context, a responsibility to protect the institution and not just themselves. They have a duty and a responsibility to the institution. That sense of awareness, whether they know that they are an institution.
Yes, they ought to. That's why they are kept for 7 days before they are ever brought out for official, at least in the big king fundoms. They are kept in the special ancestral home or hut for 7 days, and nobody comes near them, so that they can gain all this wisdom and commune with their ancestors. So they should know. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, what I discovered during the research is that a good number of chiefs, not funds, a good number of chiefs have been carved out of what should not have even been chiefdoms. So there's a whole problem that has arisen, which culture is changing, no doubt about it. But culture cannot change to a point where our identity is sacrificed.
Well said.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. May I use my little privilege and ask a question?
Yes.
It's really an enjoyable read, really good history, culture, identity. I really encourage everyone to get hold of a copy and read it. It's not a big book. Some of us are scared of big books. This is not a big book, not a lot of pages, but a lot of very rich content, historical, traditional, cultural, and all that. But Father, let me ask what other people will probably be dying to ask. Wusai Father, for what would you write about tradition and politics?
Very good question. Very good question. But just to the right person, he has an answer to everything.
Now, let me just say that it is not because I am a priest. I am also an anthropologist, number one. And that part of me is very much in the fore. Secondly, there is no way you can evangelize without evangelizing in and through the culture of the people. John Paul II, who ordained me, is very strong on that. And lastly, you might like to know about this other one, where the Vatican asked me to write on how we should be teaching African traditional religion. It's just come out. And yes, so it is 400 pages of how we should be teaching African traditional religion. So we are already in various universities, and all major seminaries and houses of formation are supposed to use this on teaching. SPEAR would also be interested to get this, and because I was telling the Vatican, if they publish it, it will be too expensive. But if SPEAR publishes it, it might be cheaper for the rest of the world. So this one, I'll be talking with Jude on that. But it's a primer. It is the first of its kind in Africa. And it is a summary of about 250 books that has been written on African traditional religion, which I was forced to read in order to come out with this and to go researching all over the north to south, west to east of Africa. And we had at least 6 major seminars in all the parts of Africa with all the best brains of African universities to come out with this. So I think the Prime Minister of the Republic was in Yaoundé to launch this.
Thank you for introducing that. We know that you have 25 publications, and I must say I have read quite a good dose, especially those that have to do with literature, like this drama that he talked about. I read it long ago, this one on Baal. There are so many of his works, and we encourage people to look for them. We encourage you, Father Tatah, to publish more with SPEARS so that your works are exposed the way this one is being exposed. I'm afraid because of time, we must do a round-up now, and I'll call on a few people. Just 1 minute, please, to say your last word, and then I will round up. First, beginning with the author. What do you feel about this launching? 1 minute.
I'm so happy. I couldn't have had anything better than this. I thank each and every one of you. That's the way in which we should be. And we will help identify talents that are there. Many people often do not want to see others to go ahead, but writing for me is a passion, and helping young people to write is another passion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once more, congratulations on your 40th anniversary coming up. Congratulations on your appointment to KATU, and congratulations on the inspiration that God has given you. Again, you are a priest for all seasons, and keep on flowing. I'd like to call on the CEO of SPEARS Publishing to please make his last comment, and then I will round up.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Tanguy. You've done such a fabulous job. We're truly grateful to have you as part of this community, and we are humbled that you are always available when we call on you. So thank you. Father Tatah, congrats again. I've told you this a million times. Very proud of you. That's the reason why you're my mentor. So thank you, and we look forward to even more collaborations in the coming months and years. My prayer for you is that you should continue to enjoy good health and strength, and to continue to inspire others to do the kind of work you're doing. For all those who joined us today from wherever, we are really, really appreciative of you. For our editorial board members and those working in the control room, we are very grateful. Thank you for your continued support. This is our 10th year. For those of you who love books, love the kinds of things that we are trying to do here to promote not only our authors, but the culture of reading and writing. Please join us as we continue to celebrate this 10th anniversary. Look out for more information about some of our events through our various social media platforms on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and we even just had our own TikTok account. So again, we are trying to have a presence on all those platforms. And then, of course, on our website, visit our website if you would love to learn more about what we do, about who the editorial board members are, who our authors are. There's just tons of information on that platform. So again, thank you for being here with us. And I want to give back the word to Mr. Tangi.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I'd like to join you in thanking those who tuned into this Zoom. Without you registering and being part of this Zoom, there is no launching. Thank you just for your presence. And we hope that because you know what launching via Zoom means, you would spread the gospel. You would tell others about which time that's peer calls for a book launch. You will tell them what the experience is, so that we continue to be a community and continue to promote the culture of reading. We like to again thank Professor Dze-Ngwa and Professor Anthony Ndi for taking off time to make comments on this occasion. We sincerely miss Professor Victor Gobmia, whom I know in person, and I know what contribution he could have put in. Again, I'd like to highlight the control room for everything that you are doing. Technicalities are not easy. May I thank the gods of the internet that they could allow those from Cameroon to join us in particular. We would like to highlight them in this. With that said, we cannot say everything. One major term that I learned when I studied in the UK was consciousness raising. A book launch is to raise our consciousness towards a topic that is vital to us. And we hope that this has been achieved through this book launch. We continue to encourage peers publications to continue doing what they are doing. What you are doing, you might not realize the impact, even of the young people that come up. And these recordings that you do and put out, we pray that you would continue to encourage our writers, to encourage our readers, and may we, the reading industry, continue to grow from strength to strength. Congratulations. And it has been a wrap. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So